What's up guys, Jonny May here from Piano with Jonny, and welcome to this week's quick tip where I'm going to teach you what I think is the best scale if you want to improvise and create fills on dominant 7th chords. Guys, this lesson is for intermediate players and you're going to learn not only the scale but a few really cool techniques that you can use to create lines with this scale. So let's go ahead guys and dive in. Alright guys, before I teach you this scale, I want to talk about the chord that you would play this scale over. So go ahead and play this with me. We're looking at a C7 or a C dominant 7th chord, C, E, G, and B flat. That is a C dominant 7th chord. Fairly simple. Now, there are a few ways that you could play this chord as an accompaniment as we're improvising in the right hand. You can go root up to the chord just to create a nice simple kind of swing accompaniment. The way I'd play this is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, that's totally fine. That's a really nice accompaniment, and it's very common in jazz to omit the 5th of the chord. We're going to take the G out of the chord, so that actually sounds even better. Okay, root to the 3rd and the 7th. The other way that we can do this is what's called a rootless voicing. That's super cool, basically dropping down to a low C, and then we're coming up here and we're adding an A to the chord. This is called the 13th of the chord, and so this creates a really nice accompaniment sound. Now normally I would put a D on the top of our rootless voicing like that, but because this scale uses a D flat, you're going to learn the scale here in a minute, we omit the D. That way the scale works with the chord a little bit better. So this is the other way I like to play the scale: E, A, and B flat. And a great way to practice this is to go root, chord, a root, chord. Okay, it's a little more of an advanced way, and I like to throw a quick 5-1 in. That's super nice, okay? So kind of two ways of practicing it. If you're kind of more on the beginner side, use the root position chords. I'd take the 5th out of the chord, and then if you're a little more intermediate advanced, go ahead and do this rootless voicing with a bigger jump. All right, guys, you ready to learn this scale? I think this is the coolest scale ever in terms of improvising and creating fills when you play jazz piano. This is called C Dominant Diminished. Let me play this scale for you so you can hear it one more time. Okay, it has a very, very cool sound, and when you improvise, or when you resolve the scale, okay, it resolves really, really nicely to an F major chord, okay? So let's go ahead, guys, and talk about this scale. What are the notes of this scale, and how does this scale work? Okay, go ahead and play the notes with me. We're going to start thumb on middle C. We're going to go 2 finger on D flat, 3rd finger on E flat, okay? Thumb on E, 2nd finger on G flat, thumb on G, 2 finger on A, 3rd finger on B flat, and thumb on C. Okay, so this is the scale, guys, and it's a cool scale for several reasons. One, it's very cool because it uses half steps and whole steps all the way up. So starting from C, you go half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, okay? And I would encourage you to practice this all the way up the piano. But the main reason why it's super cool is you hit some very cool colors from your C7 chord, okay? We start on the root, and then we go to what's called a flat 9. It's a colored note from a dominant chord, so it's a super cool note. This is called the sharp 9, okay? It's, again, a really cool color from the chord. And again, playing jazz and improvising is all about hitting cool colors from your chord, okay? This is the 3rd of the chord. This is the flat 5 or sharp 11 of the chord. Again, it's a colored note. We look for these colors in jazz, okay? So right there, you got 3 really cool color notes that don't normally come from a C dominant 7th chord, okay? Then we have A, that's called the 13 of the chord. B flat, that's the 7th of the chord. And then C is the root. By the way, guys, if you are liking this video so far, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to hit the subscribe button. Love to get new subscribers here on the channel. Okay, guys, so that's a C dominant 7th chord, and we're using C dominant diminished scale, and that's kind of the scale. And I would just encourage you to practice this kind of up and down the piano. Again, a super important scale because you get so many really, really cool colors contained within this scale. Okay, very, very important. Now, guys, playing a scale is very cool, but just playing the scale up and down, okay, can be a little bit boring, right? You don't want to just drill the scale up and down. So what really matters here is what you can do with this scale. And I talk a lot about this in our other lessons at Piano with Jonny when we talk about improvisation, right? You want to do stuff with the scale, and there's kind of two ways I like to think of improvising or creating fills. The first is, what kind of rhythms can I do, right? Like, how can I create some cool rhythms? And there's kind of three rhythms that I use the majority of the time, and most pros use these three rhythms. The other thing is movement. How do you move between notes? And there's kind of three different things that I use most of the time and most pros use. So let's first talk about rhythm, okay? Guys, the most common rhythm in jazz music, whether you want to sound like Charlie Parker or Bud Powell or Thelonious Monk or whoever, Oscar Peterson, is using eighth notes. Eighth notes are the most important rhythm, okay? So what I'd have you do is start working on some eighth note lines. Kind of swing lines up and down the piano, like that, okay? These are eighth notes. The other one I hear a lot of are triplets. Triplet, 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 okay? And so I'd practice triplets all the way up the piano, okay? Those are gonna be the triplets, triplet, triplet, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? The next one is turns, okay? Turns are a very important technique. A turn sounds like this. Okay? And basically what I'm doing is I'm picking a starting note from this scale, like E flat, and I turn basically, up and then down the note. You see what I'm doing there? E flat, E flat, D flat, C. And then you can turn here on the B flat, and then you can turn on the F sharp, and then turn on the C sharp, okay? You can create some really cool lines using turns. Okay, again, these are all techniques I talk a lot about in our lessons here at pianowithjonny.com. By the way, if you want more lessons here on improvisation, guys, we just created the full-length workshop, Scales for Improv, where I teach you all of the scales that you need to know to improvise in jazz. We talk about major seventh chords, minor seventh chords, dominant seventh chords, minor 7 flat 5 chords, and fully diminished chords. And for each of these chords, I teach you several scales that you can use to create a ton of awesome lines. I'll show you a little bit more about that at the end of today's quick tip. All right, guys, so we talked about rhythms you can use, eighth notes, triplets, and turns. Okay, and that's going to encompass most of the rhythms that we like to use when we're improvising. The other thing I love to think about when I'm improvising is the movement of my lines. How do notes move from one to the other? And so the first thing to know for sure is the second movement, okay? Or the walking movement, where you're basically walking up and down to the next neighboring note from the scale. And most of your lines are going to be these seconds, or this walking sort of to the next note. The other movement that you really should know are thirds. Okay, and what I'm doing here is I'm trying to grab notes from this scale that are kind of a third apart. Okay, and if you kind of break your scale up like this, you can do thirds up and down the scale, and it's very cool. You can create some really nice lines with it. Okay, so I'm kind of skipping around here, and again, it's a very, very cool kind of colorful sound. The last thing I do a lot of is outlining seventh chords, okay? And what you can do is take this scale, the C sharp, what I call C sharp diminished scale. If you started this on a C sharp, it's a whole step, half step, whole step, half step scale. And what you do is you outline chords, seventh chords that are contained within the scale. Again, I talk a lot about this in our other courses here at pianowithjonny.com. We have a ton of improv courses if you want to go much deeper into these topics. But basically, if you take the C dominant diminished scale and you do like a seventh chord or a diminished seventh chord based on this scale, which are these 4 notes, then you can do another seventh chord if you build it here on the C sharp, okay? So I'm building a seventh chord. These are fully diminished seventh chords that are contained within the C dominant diminished scale. And so you can build another seventh chord here, and then another one here, and then here, okay? And this is something I have my students practice, is go through the scale and outline all of your seventh chords, again, that are contained within the scale. And so once you kind of drill these seventh chords, you can use them in your improvisation. Okay, do you see what I'm doing? So I'm using a lot of eighth notes, I'm using some triplets in there, but I'm trying to grab are all of these seventh chords, once again, that are contained within this scale. Now guys, what I want to do is I want to play with a backing track real quick to show you what the improv sounds like. This is a backing track that does come with the course at pianowithjohnny.com. In fact, you get several backing tracks. You get one backing track for each chord type. So there's one for major seventh chords, minor seventh chords. But here's the dominant seventh chords track. Okay, let's do a little improv. Here we go. Hear those little eighth notes. You can do triplets. You can do some turns. Okay, you can do third movement. You can outline seventh chords. See what I'm doing here? So again, there are a ton of ways that you can create lines with this scale. All right, guys, this concludes the quick tip. If you guys enjoyed this, be sure to check out our full-length course where I teach you every scale that you need to know to improvise over your seventh chords. I teach you 4 different scales that you can use over major seventh chords, 3 different scales that you can use over minor seventh chords, 5 different scales that you can use on dominant seventh chords, 2 different scales that you can use on half diminished chords or minor 7 flat 5, and then a scale that you can use on your fully diminished chords. So guys, if you ever have wondered, what scale do I use when I want to improvise, or what scale should I use if I want to create a fill, guys, this is an amazing course, and it was a live workshop we did for our members, so our members got to ask me questions during the workshop. And guys, if you want to learn piano online, you want to learn how to play jazz, you want to learn how to improvise, you want to learn how to read lead sheets, you want to play blues piano, you want to play cocktail jazz, swing, Latin jazz, boogie woogie, a ton of different styles, check out pianowithjohnny.com. We have an awesome online learning platform. We have roadmaps, step-by-step courses in all of these styles, lessons for all playing levels, beginner, intermediate, advanced, and we also have an all-access membership where our members get full access to over 450 lessons in these styles. We do live events every month. We do a live workshop lesson. We do a live Q&A. We have ear training exercises. We do weekly challenges. Guys, it is the most awesome learning platform, so go check out pianowithjohnny.com. I'll put a link to that below, and I'll see you in the next quick tip.